Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Richest Men in Town podcast. I'm Mike Freeman, and along with my good friend and co-host Tyler Gould, we're excited to welcome you to our little podcast project. Tyler and I are just a couple of middle-aged husbands and dads driven to live our best lives. We want to be better every day, so here we'll be sitting down with great people. Not famous people, but great people that we admire, to learn their secret to living the rich life. Probably not the rich life you're thinking of. Our guests come in humbled and surprised at the invitation and hopefully leave feeling proud and grateful, realizing just how good they really have it. So pull up a chair, stay a while, and raise a glass with us as we toast our guests to the richest men in town.
Mike Freeman, it is Thursday night. It is RMIT night. How are you, my friend?
Man, it's always good to catch up with Tyler Gould. It's always good. Always good to catch up with some old guests. We brought round two Dave Specht to the show.
Specht. Yeah, I mean, Dave Specht came on with us at episode 14, and here we are at episode 50-something.
14 basically sounds like founding father of Richest Men in Town.
Yeah, because I think we were like in our garage, it was sort of like an Apple, computer story, something like that.
Yeah, we're probably rocking 500 downloads at that point or something.
Yeah, exactly. And Dave Specht was probably responsible for a lot of those. So,
no, we really enjoyed the first episode. And I think what really led to, we keep track, right? I mean, the cool thing about it, it really does become almost a town, becomes a community where we keep in touch. And he just had so many things happening in his life. And it was like, I bet you life is teaching a lot to Dave Specht right now. Let's get him on.
Yeah, it was a great time tonight to be with Dave. And like you said, life doesn't stop for anybody, right? I mean, it just keeps coming at you. And Dave is no stranger to that. He's had some pretty heavy stuff he's had to deal with, and he's dealt with it graciously and courageously and taught some powerful lessons tonight about just getting through some of those tough things. So
yeah, that frame of choice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you could almost see him going, okay, what is the thing that's going to be the faithful thing to do right now? And let's just do that.
Yeah. I love that.
Kind of trust. Let's just kind of trust that as long as we're on the Lord's side with these choices, he's going to back our play and everything will work out.
Yeah, I loved his conversation about, like you said, doing the next right thing, and then about alignment, right? He talks about alignment, and I love that idea, and it we talked about removing debris from our lives with Dave as well, and the difficult.
Well, and on that alignment, those things that we do, those things that the life presents, that if we don't handle them right, we get out of alignment.
Yeah,
and how to identify that, how to slow things down. And he talks kind of Stephen Mitchell, rear view mirror, windshield, and I think he talks a little bit about the importance of always making sure that we're looking out the windshield and not looking back.
Yeah.
Chasing dreams, Tyler Gould.
Yeah, Dave Specht has gone global, and he is chasing some dreams, and it's some exciting stuff, and he sure looks like he's at peace with the chase that he's on. So it was fun to catch up with him. Yeah,
I mean, we talk on this show, but hopefully we are talking about the things that we're doing. I think that we try to do that. But he said talking about dreams, it's actually almost worse than not dreaming at all.
Yeah. I loved that part of the show.
That.
Yeah, Dave had some powerful things, and I hope that our listeners tonight enjoy the second go round with Dave Specht. On RMIT, we've got some big things happening. We've got some big things coming down the road. There's always changes happening with the show, and so we would encourage our listeners to check us out on Facebook at Richest Men in Town. Check us out. Join us in the town, our group that we've established on Facebook.
Oh, great prompt. Tip my hat to you, Tyler, on the mom thing with Mother's Day coming up. There's a great post in there just asking questions. And that's what the town is. The town is just that conversation. It kind of extends beyond. It might be based on something that happens here on the show, but then it gets us thinking, and it's like, hey guys, let's kick this one around. right? What has mom taught you?
Yeah. And it's great because a lot of our past guests weigh in on those conversations. So it's a lot.
And some new people. I mean, we've got new people joining the town every day, and I see some names on there of people, of men and women that I have not met yet. And so I'm looking forward to maybe tap on the shoulder, get on the show and talk to us a little bit about their lives. So
absolutely. So we encourage you to check that out. And that's what this show is all about, right? It's creating relationships. This second conversation that we had with Dave Specht is another conversation that we were able to have to learn about his journey and how we can apply some of his lessons to our own lives.
You know, Tyler, lately I'm kind of obsessed with this idea. So many of the things that we want in life, right, are answers or destinations that are on the other side of a door.
Yeah.
And I think we're aware of the importance of hinge moments in our life, and we're aware of that door concept. But I really think the idea is identifying the door handle. What is the thing that I can actually do that's going to open the door to get me the thing on the other side of the door? And I love hanging out with Dave Specht because Dave understands the power of a good question.
Yeah.
And he actually fires some back at us. And in our conversation, I felt like I was actually in that process identifying some things that, hey, turn that handle, right? Yeah. Turn that handle and see where that goes, right? Yeah. Because doors are walls without a doorknob.
Yeah.
Right. As we understand that being curious about identifying the things that we can turn in our lives that open up new chapters, that take us to new destinations, even new ways of thinking.
Yeah.
You know, out with that old debris, in with some new. And I think that's kind of the spirit of Dave's conversation tonight. So.
Yeah, I hope that when you're listening tonight, that there's some things that stand out to you that help you open some doors and make some changes, adjustments, and chase some dreams in your own lives. So
chase some dreams.
Enjoy your time tonight with Dave Specht, part 2 on The Richest Men in Town.
So speaking of bucking up.
Yeah.
Did you see Bryce Harper take a fastball to the face?
I did. I was
to the face.
He looked pretty good afterward too.
Yeah.
pretty
the guy that took the next pitch in the ribs, he was hurt more than the guy who took it in the face.
It's like a Happy Gilmore scene or something, you know.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
7 miles an hour to the face.
To the face, dude. Now
Bryce Harper.
Yeah. Bryce Harper, props to you with your
note to self, don't get in a fight with Bryce Harper.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I've seen him in a couple baseball fights and nobody ever got hit in the face in those fights. This fastball made some connections, man.
Well, you could always pull his hair, right? I mean, I don't know. I've never been, well, Brian Pickard, if you're there, you know what went down. Right? You know what went down. But you know, I doubt that guy is listening. He's not our target audience. I should not have put his last name. We'll muffle the last name.
Do that. But here's the thing. You know, I don't think any baseball player, with the exception of one, has been in a baseball fight in the history of baseball. Okay, because what I love about baseball fights is the group jog from the bullpen with both teams sort of talking to each other as they're running out to the fight. I mean, it's ridiculous, right?
Hold up. I beg to differ, dude. Robin Ventura?
That's my only exception to this whole thing. And I say this. I said, you heard me
Nolan
say.
Ryan? All right.
You heard me say only one person has been in a fight. Right? Robin Ventura he was a victim of the fight. Nolan Ryan was in a fight. I mean,
I saw a crazy stat. Nolan Ryan struck out dudes whose kids went to the majors, and Nolan Ryan struck out their kids.
I think Nolan Ryan. I mean, we gotta have the intern look up the stats here. But how old was Nolan Ryan when he beat the trash out of Robin Ventura? I seem to remember there wasn't a lot of hair on that head. You know what I mean? So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Hey, speaking of baseball, I mean, let's just hash this out.
Yeah.
Right? Bumgarner throws a no-hitter in 7 innings, and they don't call it a no-hitter.
I mean, baseball.
Where you stand with that?
There's a lot of things with baseball that drive me absolutely nuts. Look, Bumgarner, that's a no-hitter. I don't like Bumgarner, but that's a freaking no-hitter, dude.
It's not a no-hitter, but in the stats, it's a no-hitter.
It's a no-hitter.
If you're at the bar, and he's 50 and he's reminiscing about his career, he's not going to brag about that one.
But he should be able to, because the rules of baseball said that after the 7th inning, the game is over.
Yes. And here's my point, right? I've argued this. I've lost productivity at work arguing this, right? If he gets the win, if he gets a W,
yeah,
he should get a no-hitter.
Yeah.
Like, well, no, it doesn't count. It doesn't count as a no-hitter. Well, then why? Because it wasn't a full game. Why does it count as a W then?
Yeah, it should just be
why don't you play 2 more innings?
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously.
It's so ridiculous.
Anyway.
Okay, wait. Since we're talking about baseball things that drive you nuts, let's get into something a little more controversial then. Where do you stand on Pete Rose? Go ahead, lay it on me, man.
Hey, dude. Hey, I'm a Grace guy, right? I'm a Grace guy, and I'm thinking he bet on some baseball games. Baseball's baseball, right? Like, how much influence really? And he's Mr. Baseball, right?
He was like the all-time hit leader, man.
Let him in.
Let him in.
What are you trying to do in baseball? You're trying to take a wooden bat and hit a ball. He did it better than anybody.
Exactly.
Let him in.
I mean,
right?
if one of the qualifications for the Hall of Fame was a deep background check, then it'd be a very lonely hall. You know what I mean?
Do you feel like our millions of listeners are bailing right now because everyone's like anti Pete Rose, or is it changing?
Or is it that they're like, who's Pete Rose? that could be too. I hope it's changing, man. I don't know.
Let me tell you about this who's Pete Rose thing. I don't know if you're catching on to. There's a story on our church's website. Dwayne Wade had a stylist, and she got baptized, and
yeah.
I was at church on Sunday, and we were talking about this, and the kids were like, "Who's Dwayne Wade?"
This is what I'm talking about, dude.
Some of these younger kids, it's about now.
Who's Dwayne Wade, dude? That was like what, 4 years ago?
Right. And I'm listening to this, and I'm like, who's Dwayne Wade, really? Like,
he won titles with
I'm
LeBron James.
On the history lesson, if I'm like Pete Maravich, right?
Yeah, I get that.
Dwayne Wade. Yeah. We got to give that history lesson.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. But nothing will make you feel, old.
I had a moment. Maybe I'm an old man. I had a freaking moment where I stood up and applauded to my TV and said, okay, finally.
Let me hear it.
The future's here, Tyler Gould.
Oh, this is exciting.
Elon's doing his thing and SpaceX is doing their thing. But Domino's has a driverless delivery vehicle.
Wait, what?
Domino's Pizza has a driverless delivery vehicle.
Who would have thought that a company that had a mascot called the Noid, right, will beat Elon to a driverless vehicle?
That's it.
That's amazing.
That's all I need. I love me some driving, right? Don't take away my driving.
No, don't take away my
driving, right? I'm going to be grumpy old man. Get off my lawn if you come to me and here's a autopilot car. No.
Yeah.
I want to turn the music up. I want to turn the window down, and I want to go. Says the guy who doesn't have a car that can go anywhere fast. Right?
Yeah, I do have this dream. I have a dream, Mike, and that dream.
So do I. I walk out to the Domino's guy, and there's no guy.
It's just what? Like you just drop. There's like the window's cracked. You just shove the cash through the window. There's no cash anymore, so there's that too.
Sorry,
so,
what's
right?
your dream?
Okay, the dream is I've got a 1974 pickup truck that is manual transmission, gas guzzler,
like a column, right?
Yes, three on the tree, man.
Like the long stick.
Oh yeah, the one. Yeah, that if you took it out, it was like a 6-foot shaft.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or yeah, on the column or the long one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And you got to
Yes. You don't worry about the grinding because that's how it gets in there. You grind it in, man.
say, look, son, you see that gas gauge go down when I start it? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I want. That's my dream. One day.
Yeah, someday. Are you?
So,
You're gonna be throwback guy.
Yeah, I'm already there, dude. I'm telling you, I'm getting old, man. Things are, it's funny because you think about adults you knew as kids, and you were like, man, those guys, their style just stopped at one point in time, and they just that's where they were. And I guess I'm that dude. I don't know, man.
Yeah. You want to still have the style, dude. You don't want to be Mr. button-up dress shirt and elastic sweatpants working out in the yard. You don't want to be that guy.
No, but on some level,
that guy doesn't
admire that guy.
That guy doesn't know he's that guy.
That's okay. That's true, because if he did, there would be some admiration for just the ability to say, "Hey, you know what? This is me, and I'm comfortable with me."
Yeah, I think you need to be careful when you start to live with those kinds of signs. It's very clear that your social circle is suffering, right? Like you don't have an accountability partner. You don't have somebody that can check your role and be like, "Hey, yellow elastic bottom sweatpants, Crocs,
and light blue button
and
down?
a blue button down collared shirt."
But what does this say about your significant other's lack of communication?
She's done. No, it's not communication. She's done.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Like if you are in the front yard in the sweatpants with the button down and no one has said a word to you as you walked past them out the door to do that, there's problems that have to be addressed.
Let me throw this out there, and I cannot believe I'm going to say this, right?
Yeah.
I cannot believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to try to keep this as family friendly as possible. I don't want to be done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to be done. But can you imagine the amount of energy you're going to be able to throw into other things when you are done?
But I think when you're done, the energy's gone. That's the irony of it all. Like you now have all this extra space to put into other things, but you've ended it, man. You've sat on the couch and you've just said, you know what? This is comfortable. And I could walk over there and do that thing, but that means I have to get up.
We got to burn our couches,
Yeah.
We just got to burn the couches.
Yeah. You have stand-up desks at
yeah, I got one of those.
Work. What if you just had a stand-up dinner? We actually already have that, man. Stand-up dining room table. Everyone just stands up and scarfs their food before they run out to the next activity. I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, Tyler, we're kind of doing a throwback. So check this out. I got my buddy, our buddy. He's your buddy now too. We got Dave Specht coming back. So he's episode 14, right? Permission granted.
Yeah.
And his life is rich. His life is interesting, and he's got some things happening. And so we thought, you know what? Let's get him on the show. Let's get an update. Let's see what life is teaching, and we can, we can maybe kick some Charlie Hustle around, see how he feels about some Pete Rose, and see how he feels about some of these questions of the soul.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's bring him in the room, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna click on this admit button, and we're gonna get our good friend Dave Specht in.
Oh, there he is. Yep. That's what I'm talking about.
What's going on,
Dave
fellas?
Specht, how are you, brother?
Doing good. How are you guys doing?
Hey,
good,
welcome
man.
back to the richest men in town.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, this is proof that we are men of our word. We say we're going to do it again, and by golly, your phone rings, and it's like, uh-oh, they mean
it.
So, Dave, before you walked in the room, we were breaking down some real heavy topics, right? And the first one I want to throw at you is a baseball fight really a fight? That's the first question.
Hey, a baseball fight is way more of a fight than an NBA fight.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
They have those hold me back moments. Hold me back.
I always thought a baseball fight was really just a bunch of guys gathering around the mound talking for a few minutes. Like that was really it. And
Well, why are they doing that? Because they're tired? You don't get tired in baseball.
Well, yeah, they're tired. They just jogged out from the bullpen, man. They're exhausted.
Hey, now, Dave, I we'll put this in the show notes, but I beg to differ because Jeff Van Gundy went after that ankle guy.
That's true.
Patrick
That's true.
Ewing,
But there aren't a lot of those.
Floor like a cheap towel, man.
Those are expensive. The NBA guys have figured out those are way too expensive.
Yeah. Now, my son just has discovered. We've been talking a little bit too while before you came on about kind of the history lesson that needs to be involved with kids in sports these days, right? Dwayne Wade's name was mentioned around some high school freshmen, and they're like, "Who's that?"
It's crazy.
Right? Crazy. Who's Dwayne Wade? But my son has discovered the Malice in the Palace.
Oh wow!
So we had to break that one down, right?
Meta
that was
World
ugly,
Peace, man. That was before. That was pre-Meta World Peace.
Oh yeah, you can't have a name like Meta World Peace and do what he did.
That's when Ron was just throwing haymakers, man.
Yeah, he was visiting the stands on that one.
How are you, man?
I'm doing pretty good.
How is the Specht family these days?
Oh, there's a lot going on, but exciting times for sure. My daughter starts her mission experience on May 5th, and she's going to be at home doing the mission training center thing there in our house. Should be interesting.
And where was she called to, Dave?
Toronto, Canada, speaking Spanish.
Nice.
Can you believe that?
I love that.
How'd that make you feel? How'd that make you feel?
It's great, man. You know, the way that missionary works now, I'm going to be able to come with her to some teaching. I'm going to be able to maybe join in a little bit. It's been fun. I've been reading a chapter a night with her in Spanish. It's been really cool.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. Now you've got some things, and I appreciate your time tonight. And I know that family time's pretty precious these days. I see the church background.
Yeah.
You've got whatever that material is on our church walls.
Burlap. I think it's burlap.
Yeah, it's meant to take the skin off your arms if you run into it playing basketball.
Yeah, that's right.
So we will get into a little bit of what you've got cooking, because you've got your daughter's mission. I just got off the phone with my daughter, man. She's in Philadelphia. So Thursday nights are the night she calls. Right, Tyler gets calls Tuesdays, Mondays,
Tuesdays. Yep.
So we're with you, man. We can have a little therapy session.
Yeah.
Right. But I got to ask you this. Also, on the subject of baseball, we got to talking about Bryce Harper's 97-mile-per-hour fastball in the face. Right. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did see that.
That's a little harsh. And then we got into Bumgardner's 7-inning no-hitter that they're not going to give him a no-hitter for. Do you have a thought on that, Dave Specht?
I'm not a big baseball fan. I'm sorry.
Is it because of garbage like that?
No, it's a lot of time, man. It's a lot of time to invest. And you got to either be interested in a hot dog or a long conversation with a friend.
Well, that's why Mike and I are fans. We're just long-winded, man.
So do you have an opinion on Pete Rose?
Oh, whether he should be in the hall or not?
In the hall, Pete Rose?
I don't know. The hall's probably full of cheaters. I shouldn't say that out loud, should I? No, I don't know.
You're spot on, man.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of cheaters getting rewarded. So
all right,
we'll just stick with no.
All right.
No's easy, right? It's always easy. Like as a dad saying no, that's easy.
Yeah. Well, explain
Sometimes.
Yes to your kid. If you have a hard time explaining yes, then it probably should be no. Like if you have a hard time explaining yes to your kid, it probably should be no.
It's a good rule.
That's a good rule. That is a good rule. Now, I will say this. Now, we could debate the idea of Pete's we all know Pete Rose he's a character. All right.
He's a character.
The path to redemption. There's got to be a path to redemption, right?
I think he's a scoundrel.
Well, look, Pete Rose is a bad example, but people in general should have a path to redemption.
Hey, can we talk about redemption? Okay. We're going to go to Dave. We're going to go to Dave's neck of the woods.
Okay.
Basketball.
Yes.
Right. Did you see? So we're Warriors fans here. Well, we're Steph Curry fans. And what he's been doing is like unbelievable, right?
Crazy.
A couple weeks ago, though, they had Aaron Showtime Taylor. Did you catch that?
I did not.
Dave Specht, you're going to love this story. Let me tell you this story. Aaron Showtime Taylor's 26 years in prison.
Oh.
He's in San Quentin. He's a Lakers fan. He jumps in and starts calling play-by-play for cue ball basketball games. San Quentin has a basketball league. He's the play-by-play voice, and he's patterning his play-by-play call style after Chick Hearn.
Oh, wow.
So it gets pretty good. The Warriors have this thing where maybe a couple of times a year in the summer, they'll go to San Quentin and they'll hang with the guys and they'll play ball with the guys. Kind of a cool thing, right?
I didn't know that.
They meet Aaron Showtime Taylor. They have a connection. They make they establish a relationship or rapport with this guy. Aaron Showtime Taylor gets out and they extend an invitation for him to come to the Chase Center, and he is their guest public announcer.
Wow.
And calls the starting lineup, right?
Wow.
For the Warriors, for Dub
I like
Nation.
that story. I like that story.
It gets better. After that, the Warriors win. They have a post game, and they have Steph Curry. Steph Curry's like, "Hey, Aaron Showtime Taylor, get over here." Steph Curry calls him over into Steph's limelight, gives him the game ball, and steps out of the limelight. And the TV announcers do a post game with Aaron Showtime Taylor.
That's cool, man.
To tell his story, right? And he just starts getting emotional. Some Warriors come out and spraying down with some water bottles, and the guy just has, right? The guy just has a moment.
Redemption
moment.
Redemption, man. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, we throw that around, right? I'm talking about basketball. When I think of redemption, I'm thinking of Jean Valjean and candlesticks, right? Les Mis and that bishop buying Jean Valjean from darkness with those candlesticks, and Jean Valjean turning his life around, and the symbolism of that, and how we have testimonies of Jesus Christ as our Savior and Redeemer, right? So Tyler, when I say Redeemer, what comes to your mind with that word, redeem?
I mean, my mind goes straight to DNC 45, man. Like straight there, that's my first thought, listen to him who's the advocate with the Father, right? Like, to me, that's right where I go. Yeah, I mean, look, it means we can't pay the price on our own, and we've got to have someone step in and fill that gap. And that's what I think about. Those verses 3-5 and DNC 45 are it, man.
Yeah.
For me.
My daughter.
I have a tender redemption story. I'd love to share it. Yeah. So, and this is real tender right now. This guy's funeral is tomorrow. His name's Cliff Stevenson, and he's a member of our ward, and I'm working with him as a bishop, and he's got ALS, he's got Lou Gehrig's disease, and our elders quorum, the guys from the quorum are meeting him at least twice a day, usually 3 times on Saturdays and Sundays to help him out, to take care of him. And he's making changes in his life to get himself right. He knows he's, sliding downhill, and the changes, I saw in his heart, and then all those men being able to witness that change and feel the Spirit as they entered his home to serve him, man, that was powerful. And it is powerful. And we're going to have his funeral tomorrow. He passed away.
Those are the kind of things that we're talking about, right? I think, when we talk about redemption, I mean, that's it. That's what it's all about. And what a cool thing to be able to be a witness to that as well.
Yeah, what is it about
Amazing.
service? What is it about service in that space that is so refining?
It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, and you're helping someone that absolutely cannot help themselves.
And I think if it's done right, you see yourself in that person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's the beautiful thing about serving and putting yourself in those situations is, maybe you don't see that in the beginning, but when you get in there, right, I think the three of us can say pretty comfortably that we're all a lot more similar than we are not similar, right? When we get right down to it, and to see someone who is doing the work to put themselves in a better place, man, if we can't relate to that, we need to do something different, right? We need to be able to relate to that on the regular, for sure.
Well, and I think that, like, let's say I'm I'm in Dave's ward and that call to serve comes up, right? And I'm arguing with my kids over something petty. And I get in my car and I drive over to Cliff's house, and I open the door and walk in. I think instantly you're reminded of the pettiness, right? Instantly you're reminded of your own mortality. Instantly looking at this guy struggling. He'd give anything to have a tomorrow. He's just chasing tomorrow, and you're piddling away your tomorrow arguing about some petty thing with your kids, right?
It's magic though, man. I mean, isn't that why the three of us are happy that our kids are on missions? I mean, because it's brutal. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's going to stretch them. It's going to stretch them so far, and it's so humbling, but it's in those humble moments that we have growth. Like, when we're comfortable, there is no growth going on.
Yeah. Amen.
Well, I read something. If you haven't failed in the last 6 months, then you aren't pushing yourself, right? You're doing those things that you're comfortable, those things that are probably in your wheelhouse. The idea of falling on your face, scary as it might be, that happens every day on a mission.
Yeah. Multiple
Every
times.
day, right?
Yeah.
Every day on a mission. It's funny. We in a meeting last night, we set apart a young man who's going to Baltimore, Maryland. And just a super tough, that's one of my favorite things, right? Favorite things in the church is watching these kids open their calls and then setting them apart, and then they come home. It's just magical, everything about it and everything it touches. But the family's there, and it's super emotional. And stake president turns to me and says, "Brother Freeman, you got a thought." It's like, do I have a thought? Come on, man. Tyler, I borrow one of your thoughts. I always go with a little bit of Mosiah 18. 8 through 10 gets all the love, right? Verses 8 through 10 get all the love, but verse 11, when they clap their hands and they exclaim, "This is the desire of our hearts," like, that's it, right? That's it. I love that. Yeah. But in this particular situation, I said, let's talk about David and Goliath. And in 1 Samuel 17, we know the story, right? But David gets rebuffed by the king. By Saul's not having this. What is this kid even doing here? And David's answer to that, 1 Samuel 17:37. This verse gets no love in the story, but he says, "Hey, there was one time where there was this sheep I was taking care of, and a bear came. And there was this sheep that I was taking care of, and a lion came. And I was delivered by the lion, and I was delivered by the bear. And the same God that delivered me from those things are going to deliver me from this Philistine," right? And so I'm talking to this 19-year-old kid, and he's like, he doesn't know what's coming, but he knows where he's been, right? He knows where he's been, and God knows where he's been, and the Holy Ghost is going to bring some things to remembrance for that young man. and he's going to be in front of some scary situations. And the Holy Ghost is going to be like, hey, this is kind of like that time. Remember that time when you were here and this thing happened, and right? Because the battle's his, right?
Yeah.
Love that story. Love it. I'm hoping and I'm praying as a parent. I'm hoping and I'm praying that Grace remembers where she's been.
Look, Dave, have you been to Toronto, Dave?
I have not.
Okay. I have. And I'm going to tell you about my trip to Toronto. Okay. It was January. I was there on business and it was -18. Okay.
Brutal.
And I was staying in a hotel directly across the street from the convention center. And I got up that morning to go over to the convention center and I looked out that hotel lobby window and I thought, would it be weird if I called a cab right now? Because it's freaking cold out there. But I said to myself, Tyler, it's across the street. It's not that bad. Dave, I nearly died. All right. I walked across that street and nearly died. And I had this thought, who settled Toronto? And obviously it was settled in June or July. Right?
Clearly.
Clearly.
This seems like a great place.
Absolutely. This place is gorgeous. So the good news is your daughter's going to get there right when it was being settled, right? And she'll just be like, oh man, this place is amazing. But Toronto,
yeah, I'm not sure
amazing,
she's going to get there at all. Actually, Canada's pretty closed still. So,
is it?
I kind of think she'll probably be reassigned, but I don't really know.
Yeah, my son was supposed to be in Brazil, and he's in Colorado. So, but you know what? There's great lessons to be learned in this reassignment. I mean, that's the question. That's the discussion he and I have every Tuesday. You know, he feels the urgency and the angst of not being where he was called. And we talk about what that call really means, you know, and it doesn't mean
life's about reassignments, man.
That's it. I mean, and that's the thing. We've had this discussion many times, like here we are in COVID, right? And someone said in a meeting I was in a couple months ago, and they were talking about business, right? But they said, what have you learned in COVID? You know, they kind of threw that out there during this COVID time of doing business. And they said, if the answer is nothing, then it's been a big waste of time. And I love that thought, right? Because it's the same idea. What have we learned, you know? And Mike and I have had this discussion about adaptability. You know, here you go. You're going to graduate and walk down this stage and with all your friends and go to these parties. Oh, whoops, never mind. You're going to stay home. And you're going to do it from your house, and people are going to drive by with masks on and wave at you from the street, you know, and to watch, especially those young people be able to just roll with this and come out the other side and smile and say, you know what, home MTC, here we go. You know, oh, what, I'm going to Toronto, but you want me to go to Nevada? Here we go. You know, I love that thought. I know it's not easy because I have those discussions on Tuesday with my son, but they're well worth it. I think they're
called the choice generation for a reason.
Amen.
And they have choices, and that's what I'm trying to tell my daughter is every day you have choices. You can choose to go look for good things, or you can choose to look for things that are hard. And guess what? Whatever you look for, you're going to find. So make your choice.
You know what? I'm going to piggyback on that. I just had the same conversation with my son, right? So my son's 16. It's so funny how he goes from like, he comes out in his room and he's wearing the varsity home jersey of his basketball team, right? Like he's on the varsity basketball team. Dream, check, right? First game. Grateful we even have a season. Plays his first game, doesn't get any playing time as a junior on the varsity game. Dream crushed, right? He comes home and he's upset, and we're having that conversation, right? Hey, can you choose what the coach can do? No. Can you choose the outcome of the game? No. What can you choose right now? What is in your hand right now to choose, right? And the kid goes outside and takes shots.
How many times you've had that conversation with your kids, right? That's powerful, man.
But do
Those
you
are great
find yourself,
conversations.
as you're saying it, it's like, come on, coach, man, throw the kid a bone.
And you know what's funny about that, man, is that Quinn had the same experience. All I want to do is make the varsity soccer team. I don't care, as an underclass, I don't care. He makes the varsity. He doesn't get any playing time. And he says to me, I wish I was on JV. I'm like, well, you got what you wish for, man. But then, we had those same discussions that you guys had, right? And then fast forward, my daughter is playing sports, and she's wanting to be on a certain team, and and she's not getting playing time, and I hear my son teaching that lesson, and I'm like, there you go, right? It sinks in. You gotta know that lesson, right?
But and there's only one way to know it.
There's only one way to know it. You gotta be in it,
right? I was telling him, so I'm like, hey, Abe, I know you don't believe that I know what you're feeling, but let me paint you a story, right? I grew up in one town. I moved to another town for a little bit, and then I come back to my hometown, right? And I get into high school, and I'm on the high school football team, and I'm playing the town I just left, right? My friends got that date on the calendar circled, right? They're looking forward to playing against me. It's a rainy, muddy night. After the game, they come running over, and my uniform is pristine white. And they're looking at me like, you didn't play any of that game?
You guys just missed. That's the answer, right?
But I think that whether it's my daughter, right? Whether it's our daughters, whether it's our sons, whether it's ourselves, I think one of the lessons that we need to be learning right now is, and it's a hard one, but it's okay to not be okay.
That's a powerful lesson.
You think about that. Think about that. I don't know where they thought, and I remember, Tyler, us having that conversation. I don't know where they thought good time was guaranteed.
Yeah.
I don't know where they thought everything is going to go your way. But we all have that idea.
Yeah. Well, how often do you catch yourself when you're preaching one of these great sermons to your kids, like, this is exactly what I needed right now. Thank you.
Yeah.
And for us, it's like really important for us to take that moment and say, look, this is good for me. I'm preaching at me. I'm not preaching at you. This is something I'm learning, and you happen to be learning it too. And those are some good moments too.
I agree, man. I think too, I was just talking to my oldest daughter the other day, and I was saying, maybe your mom and I did you a disservice, because we tried our best to make so when you walked in the door, things were rosy, and things were good. And granted, I mean, it wasn't always that way. I'm sure my kids will be happy to tell you all the times it wasn't, but we did our best to do that. And then I think when they get to that certain age where they start to make their own decisions, there's this level of independence, then they start to see, like, oh my gosh, wait, why isn't it turning out all me? And there's that reality, right? Like, look, where I sit right now is filled with the way you feel right now, that my whole path is filled with that. Right.
Yeah.
And we just learn how to smile through it, and I think that's important too. I want my kids to know that look, life is tough. It's going to kick you in the shorts, but we can still laugh. We can still, we got to smile. We got to be able to enjoy it anyway.
Yeah. I wrote an article. I'm gonna have to send it to you guys. It's called Entitlement Begins with Me.
I love it.
And in the article, I talk about my 3 G's: gratitude, goals, and grit. And in the families that we work with, they're always worried about inheritance and how are they going to pass their wealth. And what we end up talking about is, how are you going to give them your values? You can't write that up in your will. How are you going to transfer the grit that you have that allowed you to be successful? And those are the hard things. I mean, those are the really hard things to transfer.
It makes me think of this resource, right? We're doing a lot of work with emotional resilience right now in our stake. And right out of the gate, there's a quote from Russell M. Nelson that says, we can feel joy even while having a bad day, a bad week, or even a bad year.
Yeah.
And it's not painting a smiley face on her. It's not insincere. He means it.
It's
like we can
perspective,
feel
right?
sincere joy. And then he goes on, right? It's all about this. It's all about the focus. It's not the
that's it.
circumstances. It's the focus.
I would, my Mike, and I've mentioned this to you, that my youngest is really good at finding the worst part of whatever's going on.
It's
really
easy.
Yeah.
It's easy.
So she'd come home from school and I'll say, how was school? Horrible. And I say, oh, all right, well, hold that for a second. You tell me 3 good things that happened today, and then we'll talk about that horrible thing. Right. And by the time you get through that third, it's like, yeah, well, whatever. It wasn't that bad. Right. It's just, we're moving on. But yeah, it is easy. That's the default position is the easy one. Right, Dave?
Yeah.
Well, but yeah. Again, monk manuals based on science, right? The idea is at the end of the day, looking back and finding the little things, the research is showing that happiness isn't from the big things.
Yeah.
Long lasting, like joy,
right?
Sustained joy comes from the little things. In fact, I was reading this thing and I thought of Tyler. I could hear Tyler in my head, and I was a little freaky, right?
But a little annoying. You're like, gosh.
But I actually, as I was listening to it, I thought of your take on miracles, right? And how people are expecting these big moments, and we are walking over them, tripping over them, all around us. Same with these happy moments. Same with these things that we should be grateful for. If we have eyes to see them, we'll recognize what God's doing through people, through little connecting of the dots, like we had with Clint last week, talking to him, and just people's lives. God's mindful of them. He's mindful of the details. If it's important, I believe that, Dave, I think you taught that in your episode, right? If it's important to us, it's important to him.
Yeah.
And he's mindful of that.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think that, if we make an effort to find the good in the moment that we're in, I mean, I've talked to people who have gone years, and they just don't look at those little moments and recognize them until they're so far in their rear view mirror. And I've heard people say to me, gosh, I wish I would have taken the time then to enjoy that. Right. And that's pulls at my heart a little bit, because if we're intentional about it in the moment, right, and we can step out for a second and go, where am I at, and what's good that's going on here, and that's a powerful place to be. And it's all about our focus, right? It's all about our perspective. It's all about being intentional, because like you said, Dave, the easy default position is to find the junk that got in your way for the day,
Yeah. No, one of the things I work with the youth a lot, and they end up spending all kinds of time in the rearview mirror and thinking about the things they've messed up on. And God doesn't care about who we were yesterday. He cares about who we're becoming. And it's all I can do to try to convince them that you're not who you were yesterday. Make choices today and decide who you're going to be tomorrow. And life's better. Life's better. We got a big old front windshield to look out, and we end up spending time in the rearview mirror, and it's dangerous.
Hey, can you talk to me a little bit about your son? How's he doing?
Yeah. So Damon's junior, and it was February, went in for just a routine physical because he was getting ready to run cross country. And the doctors just were kind of astounded. His heart rate was so low. And so they did an EKG, and they found out that he had a complete AV block, which is basically like his heart wasn't sending a signal to one part of his heart. And so he wasn't functioning well. And he ended up February 15th, had a pacemaker put in. And this is the same kid that has hemivertebrae and had a real extensive surgery at age 11. So he's been through a lot, but it's been a tender mercy, his attitude about it, and just his perspective on it. He's doing great. And, he feels like God's preserved him for something. And he had a choice, he had a choice. He could have chosen to feel like, why is God picking on me? Why me? All these things. But I'm proud of him, that he made that choice to see God preserved me for something. I better find it. I better figure it out.
Awesome.
And what a blessing.
Yeah.
What a blessing.
That's great news, man. I'm glad he's doing good. And I'm glad that his head's in the right place, because that's probably the hardest thing to overcome right there. That's great.
Can I talk to Dad for a second?
Yeah, sure.
How are you doing with all of that? Because I can imagine too, the temptation of that easy road would be to ask the same questions, right? Maybe throw a fist up and curse the sky and say, really? Can this kid get a break?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's tempting. It was tempting to feel that just for a moment. Mostly not because I was that worried about his health. I was, but more than anything, I was worried about his heart, and how he would receive it spiritually, and so, yeah, it was tough. But lots of tender mercies along the way. And so I feel nothing but grateful.
Wow. It reminds me of last week's guest and how quickly life can turn.
Mm-hmm.
He goes in for a normal routine checkup. He's probably an active kid, right?
Yeah.
Goes in for a normal checkup and you get a phone call and nothing normal about the checkup.
Yeah. Well, I was with him on this. So I took him in, and the doctor didn't have the best bedside manner. So they're doing this physical, and, she looks at me and says, if this was yours, I'd put you in the back of an ambulance and send you to the emergency room right now. I'm like,
oh, man.
Dude, can you think about what you're saying in front of my kid?
Yeah.
You're freaking him out. Yeah, I was actually a little upset at that one. But,
yeah. Wow.
But he's good. He's good.
Yeah, he's doing good.
How's your dad?
Dad is every time I talk to you guys, he goes back to the hospital. So this might be it for us. I'm not talking to you guys anymore. He's actually back in the hospital right now. Since we've spoken, I think he had one stroke, but when we spoke, he's had two others. He's got a lung infection right now, and he's in rough shape. But I got to see him this last week and spend some time with him. And, when you think about your dad, it's not ever something you want to do, to have to bathe him or take him to the bathroom. I mean, that's not the dad I remember, but it's moments like that of service too, that are, really pretty sweet and tender as well. And, so yeah, I've had a lot of choices these as of late of how I'm dealing, but it's been fine. It's been good. My mom's a rock.
So Dave, how are you dealing? I mean, how do you deal with all of it?
Oh man, I just try to do what's in front of me at the moment. Because if I don't, if I'm over with my dad, I feel bad about the people I'm not visiting with as a bishop. And if I'm over here working with, doing my regular job and doing the bishop duties, I feel like, nervous that I should be with my dad. And it's brutal, man, but I'm just trying to stay with what's in front of me right now and just make the next right choice. And hopefully God, tells me where to go and when.
I like that. I appreciate that answer. I think that when we're dealing with a lot of stuff, I think sometimes we want to think, or people think, someone in your position or someone that they respect is going to have the perfect answer to pull out of their pocket and say, this is it. And I love that honest answer of just the next step, man. Just got to do what's in front of you and make the right choice and have faith that it's going to somehow be okay, that I'm going to be in the right spot when I need to be there. So I appreciate that. I think people need to hear that,
Yeah, there are a lot of misconceptions about people that have leadership responsibilities in the church, that, they don't have problems, they don't have struggles,
Yeah.
they don't have doubts, they don't have, family issues. It's just not true. I mean, we do receive blessings, for that service, but it's not that, God puts all the hard things on hold, while you're serving in a leadership calling. It's just not true.
And maybe you wouldn't be an effective leader if you didn't have those things you had to deal with. I mean, you know what I mean?
It's true.
Like, you got those things in front of you, how many times have you sat with someone who's going through something and you're like, yeah, I've been there, or I'm there. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that's a powerful thing.
Well,
That's the intent.
We don't have a good time gospel, right?
Well, good news. That's about.
We've got good news.
Yeah.
We've got good news, but there is no promise of that. There is no promise of immunity, right? Oh, if you do this, you're going to be immune from these things. If anything, it's probably preparing you to be more of service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I mean, the gospel of Jesus Christ is all about the messy moments. It's all about the uncertainty. It's all about when you just have to choose. Like, I'm either going to choose faith or I'm going to choose something different because I don't understand this.
Can we piggyback? Can I just pause on that and drill down on that?
Sure.
To our listeners, is the choice really that easy? Not easy.
Yeah.
Is the choice that simple? Is the choice that black and white?
I mean, for me, it's become more of a choice lately. I mean, I think when things are really hard, you do just have to choose. Like, I either still believe what I said I believed, and I'm just going to keep trying and working, or I'm going to throw in the towel and try something else. And for me, it feels like it is a choice. There are a lot that feel like life is happening to them and that they don't have any choices. And I refuse to believe that. I mean, there are things that are happening to us, but we have choices, and I can't imagine like rejecting the restored gospel of Jesus Christ and the hope that comes in those dark moments. I don't want to be in the dark by myself. I don't want to be in the dark without faith.
When you say, well, the choice is faith or choose something else, and I agree with that, by the way. But I think that we can have this understanding or agreement that choosing faith can be nuanced as well, right? You could choose faith and still be like, I'm scared, I'm worried, I feel a little lost. But you're turning to something that has the ability to provide hope, as you say, Dave, to give you some comfort in those dark moments. I think that it's nuanced, and I don't think it's, when we say black and white, I don't think it's black and white, but I think it's okay to say I'm choosing faith, but gosh darn it, I don't know if this is going to work out.
But I think of like our friend Dave Hill, right? I choose the things that are going to keep my heart soft.
Yeah.
Right. There's things I can either choose to be hard. I can do those things that are going to keep my heart soft, or I can choose to harden my heart. And I really love the simplicity of that, of Dave framing it the way he framed it, where every situation I'm in, there's a choice towards faith. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I guess I would say it's not the end, right? Because like you can wake up tomorrow and say, I'm choosing faith. And then an hour later go, I don't have faith. Right. And then 15 minutes later go, but I'm going to choose faith. But that's like right?
that quote I sent you from Russell M. Nelson a couple of days ago, right? Where it's like, he asked that amazing question, what would you do if you had more faith?
Yeah.
And then he says, think about it, write about it, then receive more faith by doing something that requires more faith.
Right.
So looking at the situation that you're in, looking at the choices that you have, Dave's teaching us that we have a choice. I think that there is a voice out there, that there's an idea out there that you don't have a choice. You've always got a choice.
Yeah.
Do what President Nelson's teaching you, right? Choose the thing that requires more faith, and you'll receive more faith. And then we'll live out that life that a person with faith in Jesus Christ would live out. Unfortunately, with Dave's situations and everything, we're all dealing with things. The thing that is requiring more faith is difficult. It's going to be the hard choice. It's not going to be the layup.
Well, and the other thing I'm working on is trying to figure out how to have my faith not dependent on an outcome. Because faith dependent on an outcome is dangerous.
Yeah.
And for me, it's about trying to figure out alignment. Like how aligned am I with God's will? And it's pretty easy to say thy will be done, but like really, when I'm praying for my son, he's going in to get a pacemaker put in, it's not a flippant thy will be done in that moment. When I'm at my dad's house and I, he can't communicate, and I have a thought to lay hands on his head and give him a blessing. It's like, where's my faith now? How am I aligned? My voice really, the words of a loving Heavenly Father that knows exactly what he needs for my dad and wants for my dad. How conflicted am I? How aligned am I with God's will on that? So those are things I'm working with, man. They're things I'm working on, and alignment is hard, but it's a worthwhile work.
Hey, Dave, can we talk about the process of alignment a little bit and what that work looks like? Because I love the word alignment. I love the idea of alignment and those adjustments that are needed to keep ourselves there. Can you talk a little bit about that process for you?
Yeah. So, if you think about a car, there's some things that will take you out of alignment. One is, bad roads, taking your car off road and being a little rough on it. And that can happen in life, with things that we're consuming, whether through our eyes or our ears. And those are things I'm working on. What am I watching? What am I listening to? And those things affect my alignment. And then just, knowing that I don't know what God wants in all these circumstances. And then just trying to trust that I'm good. I'm okay not knowing, but I believe that God loves me. And I can ask for what I want, but I need to remind myself that, he knows exactly what I need. So there's a little bit of that. And then part of alignment too is like reflecting backwards, going back and saying, how am I doing? And what do I need to modify going forward so that I don't get in my own way, whether it's in my priesthood responsibilities or things I need to do as a dad. And I don't know if that's helpful at all. That's kind of
that's super helpful. I love that.
So can I ask you this? Because we've been having this conversation, Dave, about the prophet's invitation to remove old debris from your life. Are there ever any instances in your life, let's just say I know a guy who struggles with this, when you know what is needed and you don't want to ask, like the answer, right? Whether it's that old debris that you've been carrying around forever, whether it's your favorite sin, right? It's a habit, it's this or it's that. How would you counsel somebody struggling to do the thing that they know they need to do?
It's easy to counsel others. It's hard to take it myself. Are you tired of carrying it? Is a part of it. Are you sick of carrying it around? And I have to ask myself that, is there anything I'm sick of carrying around that I just don't want to carry around anymore? And I'm thinking of a specific young man I'm working with right now who just kind of unloaded the backpack of rocks, before he's preparing to, go on a mission and has these desires to just be all set, in this process of him just unloading stuff that he was unnecessarily carrying around. It's so amazing. takes so much courage. And I'm like jumping up and down on my desk here in the bishop's office saying, yes, dump it out. You don't need to carry it.
Talk about miracles, right?
Oh, yeah, those are beautiful times.
Yeah.
But again, it's so much easier giving that counsel than, figuring out how to take it yourself.
I always kind of feel like it's for me, this is coming from the guy that has very little faith, right? So for me, this is about like, I'm always like, I think about, experimenting on it, okay, look, let me test this out, right? I'm going to put this aside. I'm going to be all in and see where I'm at, and I mean, that process for me hasn't let me down, if you're honest with yourself, and you look at yourself and say, what did I gain through that experiment, or where am I at? And that analogy of unloading the backpack, right? When we've done that, and we've all been there on some level, when we've done that, and we go down the road a few hundred feet or a few hundred yards without the backpack of rocks, then we're like, oh, wait a second. This is a heck of a lot easier, a heck of a lot nicer. I feel a heck of a lot better about myself and others. Right?
I actually still have a couple rocks I'd like to get rid of.
That's right. Maybe I'll get the stuff out of my pockets too.
But I think that's when President Nelson says, what would you do if you had more faith? Think about it, write about it. I think that's touching right on what Tyler said. Basically like, hey, come up with a hypothesis on this experiment.
Yeah.
If you did that thing or stop doing that thing, what would life be like?
And look, dude, I'll be honest with you, Mike. I told you this the other day. I'm working on compiling this list of debris. It's a scary deal, man. And I am looking at it, and there's things where I'm like, yeah, that one, we're going to hang on to that one for a minute. You know what I mean? Like, it's there, man. So you want to unpack it. And I know the benefits beyond that, right? But some of those things I'm like, yeah, that one's not that bad, for crying out loud. You know what I mean? So,
well, and as I'm engaged in the same process, I think of that word identity.
Yeah.
Some of these things become who I think I am. But I mean, it really comes down to, like President Russell M. Nelson said this: if the Lord were to speak to you, if Jesus Christ were to pop into your room and have a conversation with you, he would urge you to understand your identity, to know who you really are. That's what he would say. He'd call you by name, and he would remind you who you are. So these contrived identities that I have don't matter. That's not what's recorded up in heaven as far as who Mike Freeman is. So why not use this little tabernacle of clay, this little window of time, and work on that identity?
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Have you ever had someone in your life that saw you and maybe shared what they saw in you, and you're like, I didn't realize that's what I didn't know that I could be that. Have you guys ever had anyone like that in your life that just exposed you for your goodness, and you were like, what?
Yeah, Mrs. Really? Freeman.
That's what you see?
Yeah. Well, do you guys know who Jim Gaffigan is, the comedian?
Yeah.
Right? He does this bit where he's hanging out with his friends, and he sees his other friends coming, and he says, hey, don't mind me when I start speaking in a British accent because they think I'm from Britain, right? So like, I think about that all the time because, like, I want to be consistent, right? We have this discussion about authenticity and just being who you are. Yeah, I don't want to have the British accent when the other group of friends comes around. You know what I mean?
Just go with it.
Don't ask questions, man.
Yeah, Dave. I mean, I think that there's power in that, and we've talked about how people kind of loan you that confidence. You know, they see you and they say, hey, I see you. And yeah, and I actually think they see my folly. Like some of these things that I was talking about that are kind of on that debris list and things that need to be cleaned up. I think the people that know me best are waiting for those things to be cleaned up, right? They're waiting for me to understand that, hey, you know, that's all folly. And why do you keep going back to that? Or why do you keep playing that card when that's not who you are and you know it? You know, and there's been moments where we get glimpses of who we are. And, you know, like I've shared with Tyler before, a lot of times it's when right after we weren't who we were supposed to be, then when those glimpses come. But I shared Paul Chamley, right? Paul Chamley is one of my favorite people. He passed away, over 5 years ago, right? Like, wow. But the time I came to minister to grandma in a shirt and t-shirts, and he was there in suit and white shirt and tie, and he looked at me and it was like, he just looks at you like, Mike, come on, this is the priesthood of God.
That's the you're better than that look, man. I love that. That's a powerful moment, man. I love that. My life is riddled with those looks from people, man.
I mean, it was done with love. It was done with love. It wasn't like a grab my face mask and spit in my face moment, but in his own tender way, he let me know what the priesthood was. He let me know what a responsibility it was, and he let me know that I did not rise to my fullest potential in that moment.
But I think as important as those moments are, I think it's as important that, you know, and I'm thinking of our kids, but I'm also thinking of these priests that I work with all the time, you know, take them by the shoulders and say, look, this is what I see for you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is your spiritual gift. I see it over and over again. And I need you to know you have it. You have it. And they're not getting that. You know, they're not getting that.
Yeah.
Well, and that spiritual gift is interesting because it's a double-edged sword, right? When you lack the maturity, your gift is actually what's probably getting you in trouble, right?
Yeah.
The thing, and sometimes as leaders, we see like, oh my goodness, if you can direct it this way, if you can, you know, it's almost like that athletic ability. If you could use it and channel it in a direction that's going towards God, that's going to turn into a gift. Right now, it's a hindrance. Right now, it's a double-edged sword and it cuts both ways.
Right? You've had those discussions though I know I had leaders to have those discussions with me, you know, when I was a young man. And thank goodness. And you know what? Thank goodness for you, Dave, for having those conversations, because the reality is that when someone had those conversations with me, I think at the time I may have physically rolled my eyes. I don't know. You know what I mean? But it went right to the depths. You know, it sat there until at some point I allowed myself to do something with that, you know. But those conversations are worthwhile. You know, I think.
Well, and I think how they're delivered too.
Oh, for
right?
sure. Yeah.
Like come alongside.
Yeah.
Come alongside that young person. Come alongside that person that's struggling. If we're up here talking down, like, hey, that's where you're going to get eye rolls.
You got to wade out into the swamp, man.
Yeah.
And walk alongside.
I remember a moment where we had a kid who had an assignment, right? And Tyler, you've shared similar stories, but like, kid had an assignment and he didn't take it serious. And I remember just pulling up alongside afterwards and just talking to him, like, I need better, right? Yeah. I need better. And now that kid has kids, and I really hope that moment, that exchange is in his head, and maybe every once in a while, he's thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm Mike Freeman."
And if he's not, he's going to think that at some point when he's having that exact same conversation with someone else, and he's going to remember that, yeah, Freeman gave me this whole same song and dance 20 years ago.
You're better than that, and I need more.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Those are good conversations, though, man. I love it. I love it.
What is the bishop gig teaching Dave Specht right now?
Wow.
Just so you know, Tyler and I would jump into your shoes in a heartbeat right now.
Amen.
In a heartbeat. So I know it's heavy. There'll be a day where you will miss it, brother.
Yeah.
Right.
What I'm learning right now is just like how many amazing people are in our ward and in our community. Like, I am floored. I've been gone with my dad for a few days. Everything's been taken care of with this funeral, not by me. I mean, nothing. I mean, that's what I'm learning. I mean, the kingdom of God will roll forward with me or without me. That's what I'm learning. I mean, it will roll forward, and I love the work that I get to do as a bishop. But that is a learning lately that God can use us, but it's going forward. It's going forward with us or without us. And then I just love the youth. You know, I love the youth, and they are just they have a lot of hard things coming at them. Right now I have 16 priests.
Oh man, that's great.
And 5 seniors, and they're making big choices. And they let me be involved in their life. I mean, that's such a miracle to me. You know, how could it has to be this calling, otherwise they wouldn't let me in their life. So I just feel so fortunate. You know, I feel so fortunate. And I hope my family and kids are blessed. But man, sometimes they get very little of me right now. Between the other things that I'm trying to do, which is tough.
What do you think of when I say compensatory blessings? When you talked about these kids going through some hard times. I think of hymn number 85, How Firm a Foundation. And there's a line in there that says, as thy days may demand, so thy succor shall be. And the Lord knows the days. How do you see him giving those compensatory blessings, that extra to help kids through or to help families through?
Well, I think in terms of my own family, I hope the kids see that I love God, and that's the only reason I would, take time away from them. And I hope that when things are hard, that they will think back and say, why was he doing that stuff? He must have felt something, or maybe I should, try this on a little more,
You're in a good spot, Dave. I just think of your daughter who's getting ready to go to Toronto, and that like, to me, that's a miracle, that kids that age are making decisions to what the rest of the world would call sacrifice certain things, and to go and teach for a period of time. It's a miracle. And I think that, your willingness to be as all in as you are plays a role in those decisions,
Well, you don't know all in until you met my wife, Tyler Gould.
Well, that's a good thing. We need to have her on the show, man. But you know what I mean? I think that's a big deal, and it's funny because I don't know that we realize that when we're in the middle of it, right? You're serving, you're doing what you're supposed to do. You're checking those boxes sometimes, and sometimes you're checking more boxes than you were supposed to check because you're just that's what it calls for. And but notes are being taken, and they'll remember that. So and look, your daughter's going to where it's -18, man. She's doing that for a good reason. Dad set a good example there, man.
So hey Dave, tell me about companionship inventory.
So I haven't made the progress I want to make, man. I'm only 2 interviews in.
No, but talk to me about the idea. What are we up to?
Yeah, so So I had this idea about doing a podcast, and I really wanted to connect with all my old companions and really check in on them, see how they were doing. But more than anything, I just wanted to love on them too. I wanted to walk down memory lane a little bit, share some things from my journal about days that were great and also some days that were ugly, and the two that I've done so far was with my MTC companion and then with Mark Steinagel. And they've been amazing, man. They've been so amazing. And to think of all that God slammed into those 2 years, all the experience, all the growth, all the struggle, all the miracles, all of it is amazing. When I think about like 2 years in your life after the mission, it's like some of those 2 years were worth nothing, it feels like.
Well, hey, I don't know what it is, but like the stars are aligned. I've got a daughter who is on a mission. You sent me Steinagel's episode.
Oh yeah.
Right? So I got to catch some of that. And here in Redding, California, of all places, they've opened up a legitimate Uruguayan Milanesa shop.
Whoa.
Right? So I was like, so with all of those things, I went to it, man. I pulled it out, right? The missionary journal. And from time to time, as my daughter's serving, I'll just be like, what was I doing? Right? What was I doing in 1996 in April?
Yeah.
And, I just looked at today, and today we helped a woman named Mabel. So April 29th, 1996, we baptized the Noble family.
Where were you?
Let's see. I think I'm in Maroñas. And this woman is she was a victim of domestic violence. She, at the time, was receiving chemotherapy treatment for brain cancer.
Mm.
And she was working 2 jobs trying to stash money to get away.
Whoa.
Right? And so you jump right back in, right? Here I'm in 2021. I've got kids, and I jumped in on this piece of paper, and I was there. And I was instantly just humbled at how intimate the experience was with the people, with the lives of the people that we were able to serve.
What's crazy too, Mike? Like how much you fall in love with these complete strangers, and that you're sharing.
Oh, don't even get me started, man. This podcast, I've got people that I've never met, and I'd be like, I'd lay it down for that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every Thursday we get together, and I'm bawling over some stories that I've never met the people in the flesh. Right? Yeah. Tyler's never met Dave Specht.
But I love Dave Specht. That's how this thing works, man.
That's how it is, man. That's how it is. It's that knitting hearts together.
Yeah, it's real.
Right? It's that knitting hearts together, and that's what the gospel does. And the idea that my daughter is having experiences like that just warms my heart.
I'm excited for you and your daughter, man. So when does she actually start MTC, home MTC?
Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, nice.
So Cinco de Mayo is my 21st wedding anniversary.
You got married on Cinco de Mayo.
And get this, fellas, I've resigned from Wells Fargo, and I'm starting a new job on Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, get out of here.
Whoa.
So talk to us about that for a second.
So I was contacted by a buddy who said, hey, there's this job. I don't know if you're interested or you're looking or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm not really, but I'll look at it.
That's the best time to look.
Yeah, it is a good time to look, actually. So it's actually, I'm going to be the director of the Global Family Business Institute at the Peter Drucker School of Management. So it's a cool opportunity, man. I'm going to be working with family businesses all over the world now, and developing programs.
Peter Drucker School of Management.
Yeah, it's actually in California, and I get to do it from here.
That's awesome, man.
Programs are all travel wherever we're going for programs, Japan, Shanghai, wherever.
Wow. So that's a big change, huh?
It's a big change. Yeah. But I get to take the muzzle off and actually talk about the books I've written and get consulting and just being out of the financial institution. I don't have to, I don't have to be quiet about anything I've ever done. So
right. It's maybe a little less corporate, a little more the ability to teach and instruct and yeah. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's like that book from Whitney Johnson, right? Disrupt Yourself. Like you get to a point and it's like, all right, time to launch into another learning curve.
Yeah. Why not? New career, daughter going on a mission, serving as the bishop. Man.
You know what? Life is not boring.
Especially in the Specht home, man.
Life is not boring. Oh.
I love it, man. It's not meant to be.
So let's be brutally honest here. What fears do you have with this new position?
Well, it's kind of all on me to set the vision for it and to have it go. And I've never built something that's had a global impact. So, like it's either going to go or it's not going to go.
Global is such a big word.
I know it is a big word. I don't really even know what it means, but yes. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would be more worried if I would have stayed at Wells Fargo because it was comfortable. So I'm doing it. I'm all in. It's gonna be fun and it's gonna be great learning.
Do you start on Cinco de Mayo?
Some of my kids with me on some of those international trips and try to open their eyes a little bit to the world.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I love how you say build, right? Because that's the game. And I hate to beat a drum, but right? That David and Goliath, you've had experiences, maybe not global, but you've had those experiences that have set you up for this moment. And you're probably going to be in Shanghai somewhere and some farmer in Nebraska is going to come across your mind and you're going to realize this is the same game.
Yeah.
Back to one of the premises of this show, everything we need to learn about life. Yes, we can learn from It's a Wonderful Life, but we can also learn it from Hoosiers. Right? And you're going to get out to Shanghai and you're going to do the equivalent of measuring the rim and measuring the free throw line and be like, it's game time, right?
It's game time.
Just go.
Yeah.
I think I think it's time I start playing some ball.
Oh man, that's a classic. I need to watch that again. It's only been
that's
6
good
months.
stuff. That's good. Exciting times, man. Exciting times.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how it is though, right? That's how it is. Like you're struggling with your dad's health and you got this great professional opportunity. Like it's like our golf game, Tyler. Right?
Yeah.
Some days you're 310 off the tee and you miss a 3-foot putt. Some days you can't hit a fairway, but you get, you're dropping 20, 30-foot putts. I mean, that's just life.
That's maybe like your golf game. My golf game is like, can't hit a putt, can't hit a drive, That's exciting, man. I'm excited for you and for your family. I mean, what a crazy thing, right? I mean, life is wild and it's, but we go back to the beginning of our discussion. It's what do you choose to see? Do you choose to see the tough, or do you choose to see the joy that's there? And that's one of the reasons I love having these conversations with you, Dave, is that you are quick to talk about the good, even in the middle of the tough things. And so I'm very, very appreciative of that outlook.
I don't want to put you gentlemen on the spot, but
yeah, you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
You live for it.
Well, we've got a current bishop, we got a former bishop. You think of those scriptures that get people through things. And I think of the people that are listening, I think we're all going through things. Do you have one at the ready that is one of your go-tos that you throw out to people to get them through things.
Look, okay. I'm a fan of 1 Peter. I think it's 5. Beloved, think it not strange of the fiery darts or the fiery trials that are about to, come at you. But if we go through them the right way, we can be partakers of eternal life with Christ Jesus. And I just love that. I love that verse. Sometimes we have to have that perspective that, look, tough things are going to come and we can't avoid them, but we can look at it and see what the good that will come from it. And it will come from it. If we, as Dave says, if we make the right choice in those moments.
Well done.
That's one. I mean, we could throw these around all night, but that's one.
No, I like it. Bishop Specht, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, so I've just been reading the first few chapters of First Nephi again, and then just in thinking of Nephi and what he was experiencing and trying to step into his shoes with, how he's being treated by his brothers and how he wanted to understand, the mysteries that his dad had just experienced and being able to share, some of what you need to do is go and do and not know beforehand how God's going to work things out for you. That's a lot of what these youth are dealing with, is like, if you don't have a testimony of a part or a piece of the gospel, you can either choose to live it and see if God will confirm it, or not, and you'll never know. So, take courage, go and do, and not know beforehand maybe exactly what the next 3 steps are. And so that's one of the simple ones. That's one of the go-to verses, I think.
I love that. And if I can piggyback on that for a second, because I love that thought of go and do. If you look at 1 Nephi 6, right, where Nephi talks about Lehi just being told to go into the wilderness, and he does it immediately. And he says he was obedient. And then a few verses later, Nephi says, I had a desire to know these things myself. And I love that idea of modeling, right? Like what you're talking about. We've talked about this whole idea with the youth and your own kids. I mean, they're looking at, man, my dad, he was just doing. He just did it. He was obedient, and I think I think that fosters that idea of go and do. So
yeah, we need them to see everything else too, Tyler.
Say that again.
I said we need them to see those moments because they see everything else too.
Yeah, amen. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the idea of
hey, you're not getting off. Come on now. What, you just throw it out? We throw some scriptures out and then you just try to walk away?
Oh man, I'm a Mosiah 241 all day. all day, every day, twice on Sundays. So consider the blessed state of those that keep the commandments of God. They're blessed in all things, temporal, spiritual, right? And if they hold out, but lately I've been on this Jesus making the spitting in the mud, right? I think it's John 9 when he works that miracle with the blind man, blind from birth, spits in the mud and puts clay on the guy's eyes and tells him to go wash. And the guy washes and he can see. And then you can imagine the town's in an uproar, right? Blind guy from birth, blind his whole life, can now see. And folks jump in and launch into an investigation, right? And they're investigating. They interrogate him. They interrogate his parents. They're trying to get Jesus Christ in trouble. They're trying to catch him doing something. And finally, the guy's just had it. And he's like, look, one thing I know. I was blind and now I see. And I think when everything's kind of like going with what Dave was saying, I'm just trying to do the next right thing. I'm trying to be where he needs me. And when things get crazy, to simplify it down and say, one thing I know. Like this thing I know. On that day, I was dirty and I'm clean. On this day, I went in with a backpack full of rocks and I came out light. That's it. That's all I need to know. Right? That's it. That's all I need to know. I'm good. The answer is Jesus Christ. When there's a world of tumult and opinion around me, the answer is Jesus Christ. And if we focus on the thing we know and how we know it, I think we're going to be okay. And like Dave said, we're going to be in the right place, doing the right thing.
So that I got a guy that Benjamin Hardy wrote a book called Who Not How. And as you're talking about that, Mike, it's like, how was it done? How is it done, Lord? How is it done? And it isn't about the how, it's about who. It's about Jesus Christ and a Father in heaven.
Yeah, so true.
And kids and their children that they love perfectly. It's not about how. It's about
why
who.
do we do that? Why do we trip up on that? We want to know how it was done. We know it was done. It's like, well, what did he do? What was this? What was that? It's like, he made us.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right? He made us.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing. He can do his work. He can hasten his work. He can roll that stone cut without hands out of the mountain to fill the earth. And he's doing it.
He can let imperfect people like us participate.
Yeah, we're hindering it, and it's still right. It's rolling over the top of us, like you said, with or without us. This thing is going. We might as well fall in line. I love that. I love that thought of alignment, Dave. I really do appreciate that. I do think too, Tyler. It's interesting when we talk about removing debris, because I think the second part of that conversation is, what are we putting in its place, right? So Dave talked about being careful what I take in with my eyes and what I take in with my ears. Like, okay, so I shut the TV off. What am I doing in its place? And I think that's because, President Nelson made those remarks in reference to the renovation of the temple. They're removing old debris and they're bringing in better, right? They're upgrading. And I think one of the things is the challenge for us is to remove old debris. The next question would be, how are you upgrading? And maybe in some cases, just getting that debris out of there is an upgrade.
I think that's part of it too. But I think too, I like that thought, Mike. I don't know that I had really, I'd really processed it that way. You know what I mean? But I love that thought. It's interesting because lately I've been in my journal in the morning when I'm kind of writing my notes for the day. I've just been kind of going through this process of recommitting myself to things, and the things that are most important, and also at the same time, I've been trying to be more, maybe this is me subconsciously, right, replacing some of this debris, because for me, it's been about intentionality in minutes. I'm trying to drill down to minutes, Dave. That's where I'm at. I'm saying, well, when I'm with this person, I want to be 10 solid minutes of just me and that person, like zero distractions, So that's my current process. But so I like that idea, Mike, because as I'm sort of assessing my debris and keeping some of it, and then removing some of it. But yeah, I think I need to be more thoughtful about what's going in its place. I like that a lot.
One thing I would consider there too is, what stories have we told about ourselves that are no longer true? Like I'm guilty of saying many, many times, well, I'm not a reader. Well, what does that mean? That means I've chosen not to read. Like, okay.
Stories says the guy who writes books.
Yeah, well, writing different. What stories have we told ourselves that are no longer true or no longer relevant? How do I? And for me, it was as simple as I'm committing to not say that anymore, and I'm committed to reading more. And then it's done. It's over. So,
Well, I think that goes to that. I think, Dave, that goes to Sarah Hall's lesson, right? She's 37 and she's having the best year of her life professionally as a runner. And she's actually mindful of the words, like I don't say the word old, and people at my age, the athletes, they'll get on Instagram and they'll make these cute little posts about grandma strength and this. And she's like, I don't do that because that kind of manifests itself in the way that I look upon myself if I use those words to describe me.
Yeah.
And, I think it is something, because we have these things. I'm leery too of, like, the older I get, am I still dreaming? Right? You get to these places where it's like I might have the dream job, right? I might be in a place where I saw it a long time ago and now I'm there. And it's like, okay, well, how are you still dreaming, right? What does that dream look like? I'm reading this book.
You're a reader.
He's a reader, man. He's been telling himself that for years.
I came across this quote one time, and they said, the autobiography of Malcolm X changed my life. And so I was online when I read it. I immediately jumped on Amazon, clicked buy now, boom, 2 days later, magic, this book shows up. This book is doing some things to me. So I'm not going to by any means start sharing out what this book is doing to me, but I do want to read this one thought. This is the daughter of Malcolm X writing about in the foreword of this autobiography of her dad. She says this: it is essential for people to trust, even through long periods when dreams may appear to have been deferred, delayed, and overshadowed, that there comes a time when an unwavering will, a strong belief, and endless prayers bring great visions to realization. I love the idea of trusting my dreams. And they may seem far away, right? But as we have that will, as we cast those prayers up to heaven, as we have that perseverance, the idea that what we have in our hearts, and I'll be honest with you, at this stage in my life, what's in my heart is more for my kids now than me. But the process is the same, right? The beauty of that dream is still the same. And I think that we live in a world where maybe we're being discouraged to trust those dreams that we have.
You know what's more important than trusting those dreams, Mike? Chasing them.
Yeah.
Talking about dreams,
that's that go and do.
Yeah, talking about dreams is actually not that helpful. Because if we talk about dreams and we don't chase them, we actually feel worse about ourselves. It's almost better to not have a dream if you're not going to chase it. And really that's part of why I made a job change, because I needed a new dream to chase. If we don't have dreams, we're dead.
Yeah, I love that. And you start to feel those roots, and you start to think, maybe this is what I'll do the rest of my life. It's like, hold up. There's some dreams to chase. You talked about that in your first episode with us way back, right? The hoop dream.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you go and you go and you go until you can't.
Yeah.
Until someone says, hey, Specht, dream's over.
Dream's not over. Find a new dream.
That's right. Find a new dream. I love that. Thank you.
Go play intramurals, bro.
Maybe free throw contests are more for you, yeah.
Hey, Tyler, you do know never to get in a free throw contest with Dave Specht, right? We talked about that.
We didn't talk about that, but it's a good thing because I was just about ready to lay a bet. So,
what's the PR? What's the PR, Dave? What's the PR?
Well, there's video evidence on YouTube that there was a 98 during COVID, 98 out of 100.
Nice.
Wow, I think that's better than Curry's. That's better than Curry's average.
I don't know how I could do that again. No, I was alone in a gym with a rebound. That's free throws after you walk to the ground. That's not shooting free throws tired. That's No audience. No
That's
pressure.
funny, man.
That's still something. I actually have, so in my notebook, Tyler, I have a challenge list.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to, it's going to be embarrassing. But one of my micro challenges, the idea of micro challenge is that there's a lot of skill involved in going after those. And one of my micro challenges is to shoot 20 for 20 free throw.
And
we haven't checked that box yet. I get pressure around 8 or 9.
halfway through.
Yeah, you get 8 or 9 straight, you start thinking, "Whoa, I'm onto something." And then the second you say that, it goes into that, "Hey, mom, watch this," right?
Yeah, right.
The second you say that, yeah.
Yep. It's like your golf game, right? Man, I killed that drive. This next one will be easy.
Yeah,
Right?
or it's like when the baseball pitcher's throwing a no-hitter and the people stop talking to him after the 5th inning, right? Like, "Whoa, dad's hit 9 straight. Don't say anything."
Well, Dave, listen, first of all, I'm it's been fun having you back, and I'm glad that you agreed to come back. I mean, it's been it's always good to spend some time with you. And it's interesting because life rolls on, right? It just keeps coming at us no matter what we have going, and no matter where we're at, and no matter how good we think we're doing, life continues to come and continues to throw its weight around. So I'm just curious, we asked you last time at the end of the show what it meant to you to be the richest man in town. And I'm curious what that answer looks like today, 40 episodes later, right? And life has continued to come at you in that time. So what
maybe Tyler, since he's global now, maybe it's the richest man in the world.
Maybe so. Dave, what does it mean to you to be considered the richest man in the world?
Oh, boy, that's funny. As many new experiences I've had since I've talked to you guys, not a lot of my perspective on what it means to be the richest man in town has changed. For me, having a wife that is loyal, that I love and want to serve, that I don't know. I don't know what's better than that. Having kids that love me unconditionally, that continue to forgive me, having a Ward family that, sees pretty clearly a lot of my faults and keeps coming to church and keeps sustaining me. And then just small moments, where I feel like, well, having the priesthood, God's power given to man, imperfect men, when I have an opportunity to exercise that priesthood, give a blessing, I don't know how you could be more fortunate than to have God's power and to be trusted to exercise that. So has nothing to do with riches, I'll tell you that much. Has nothing to do with material, because all those could go away. But if those other things, your family and your testimony of Jesus Christ and finding hope in dark places, I mean, if you have those things, we have it all. And so I do have it all.
Well, hey, Dave, I would just add, I commend you for that, because while your answer hasn't changed, I believe there's been forces, right? There have been choices made to keep you standing where you're standing. I feel like the world is striking at that a little bit and is trying to move us from our place. And it's so wonderful, like Tyler says, 40 episodes go by and we can check in with a friend, and our friend is standing with everything going around him. He's standing right where God wants him to stand and doing right what he wants to do. I think of
Right where
Marino,
God,
right? Just Dave.
not where he wants me to stand, but I'm trying.
Dave, you just got to follow Kiefer Marino's advice and kill the gator closest to the boat.
That's right.
You just keep taking on those challenges, and the next one, the one closest to you, and And we love you, brother. And it's been a wonderful thing to get a glimpse into what life is teaching you these days. And we wish you nothing but the best at the Peter Drucker. Like, I see a T-shirt in the future.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you sent us some swag, and I got a book. I'm thinking I'm going to get a Peter Drucker School of Management T-shirt.
Global.
I have to work on
Global family business.
That's right. It's been awesome, Dave. We appreciate you, and we're just grateful for the time that we had with you tonight, and grateful that you were willing to sacrifice some of that time for us and for our listeners. So thanks for being you, man.
Yeah, I'm proud of you guys for being consistent, man. This is awesome that you guys show up the way that you do and putting out things in the world that really matter, and I don't know how many listeners, you're reaching and helping, but
we're global. We're global, brother.
I realize you're global.
We are huge in Dublin. If you ever have a road trip to Dublin, we're going.
We'll put in a good word for you.
That almost sounded Irish, Gould. You've been working on it.
Yeah.
All right, man. Keep going. Keep doing what you're doing.
Love you guys. We'll see ya.
Love you, Dave. Take care.
Bye.
Good idea, Ernie. A toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town.